Starting a track is easy. You open up your DAW, you click new project, you load in some plugin, you drag in a sample, but if you're like 90% of producers, you get stuck here and you really struggle to finish tracks. In this video, I want to show you how you can destroy this roadblock and start and finish tracks you're happy with. This works with any DAW, any software, and you don't need any music theory knowledge, so no matter what, this guide is going to help you, so make sure to watch it through to the end. I found the best way to start a melody is by adding a bass line. I'm going to start with these root notes here. And I'm going to add notes above it to turn it into a chord. I'm going to click Ctrl L, fill it over to the end, and just duplicate this here. And here we have this chord progression. I'm going to grab the bottom notes, hold down Shift to duplicate it, and drag it down an octave, so we have these root notes that are lower, and it makes the chord sound a little bit more full. There's lots of ways you can turn this chord progression into a full melody. One way is by using an arpeggiator tool. Or another way is going and building out the chord a little bit more, and then using the slice tool to go and create notes within that chord, which turns the chord progression into a melody. For example, we can add some notes here. I'm going to duplicate this over. I'm going to grab the slice tool and start slicing up some of the notes, which can turn this into a melody. I'm just adding these notes by ear, but if you want, you can go into View and Scale highlighting and select a scale, and what it's going to do is show that in the background, so you'll make sure that every single note that you place is in the correct scale. If you don't know which scale to pick, I recommend just picking a C minor scale if you're going for a bit more of a dark melody, or a C major scale if you want something slightly brighter. I then have this sound here, which I'm just layering over the top of the root notes of the melody. And by starting with a bass line, turning it into a chord progression, and then using an ARP tool or a slice tool to turn that chord progression into a full melody, you should have a perfect melody to start with, just like this. Alternatively, if you still get stuck or you want some cool melodies to work with, click the link in the description or go to wavegrind.com, and there's so many free melody packs, chord packs, MIDI packs, live vocal and guitar packs that you can work with that are free and 100% royalty free. It's perfect for getting you inspired when creating the melodies. Now moving into the drums, there's so many easy ways to create a good drum beat without getting stuck. I recommend starting with the 808 or the bass line because that follows the melody and it's basically the only pitched element in the drums. So I'm going to go and grab an 808, and I'm basically just grabbing these notes here, and I'm going to copy it onto the 808. The kick sequence is the same, except it just follows C5. I'm going to grab some of the more kind of fill kicks that aren't hitting on a chord change and lower the volume of them, just to make the kick sound a little bit less repetitive and to make the chord progressions more punchy. Then grab a clap or a snare and go and fill it in for whatever pattern you want. If you're creating a hip hop or trap style beat, you usually want to put the claps here, but if you're making a pop or an EDM style track, they tend to have the clap back here. And that's where you have the whole 4 on the floor sequence. It's very popular in pop or EDM or any dance style track. I like to drag in a crash just for a bit of evolution. I have this percussion here, which adds a little bit of texture to the background. So I like to grab a 2-step hi-hat sequence, and one way I like doing it is grabbing the first 4 bars and focusing on those and then duplicating it for the last ones. I like to add some lower pitched notes in to add a little bit of texture. And if you want to slice up some hi-hats really quickly, you can go into the magnet tool, grab something like 1/4 step, select it and click Ctrl U. And you can add some really quick hi-hat rolls. Then I go and duplicate this, so I don't have to build the whole sequence again. And you can make some small tweaks, like making some of these hi-hats more simple, because we don't want 2 fills to come in at the same time. It might sound a little bit over the top. I like to add some snare fills, just like this. I have this kind of tambourine sound effect. By the way, these all come from the Wavegrind sample pack, so check out the link in the description for those. I add them faintly in the background, which adds a really cool kind of vibe and a lot of warmth in the background without overcrowding the mix. With that done, you have the melody, you have the drums. Hopefully you didn't get stuck creating them by using these strategies. Now this is where so many producers get stuck. They have an 8-bar loop that's really good, but they struggle to mix it, master it, and arrangement. So these next steps are really important. Go and grab all your layers, drag them into a mixer track like this. I'm gonna do Control-Shift-L, which is the shortcut for FL Studio. Now I'm gonna go through one by one and mix these layers. It's not a rule, but to make the melody fit in a bit nicer, I like to cut some of the low end off because that's where the sub bass and the bass are hitting, and I don't want it to clash. I went and set all the volume for the melody layers, and if you want to add some reverb and delay or effects, now's the perfect time to do it. I'm going to go bring in the drum layers one by one. I'm going to add a little bit of reverb to the hi-hat. Now that you've set the layers, it's time to go and boost the volume of the track. You can use a soft clipper, a maximizer, or a compressor. For example, in FL Studio, there's Fruity Soft Clipper. And you can increase the post and just have a look at where the master's hitting. And you want it to be hitting at around 0 decibels if you want it to be as loud as possible without distorting. You can also use paid tools like iZotope Ozone Maximizer. Mastering a track like this is perfect if you want to put your beat on social media or on your beat store, which will make it sound really punchy and sound really good. But for streaming platforms, some of them recommend lowering the volume a little bit, and lots of people will fight about this, but you can follow guides like these, which shows you the LUFS, which is like a measure of loudness, and that's the recommended LUFS for uploading your songs to streaming platforms. So wherever you're uploading your track, it's recommended to go and use these settings. iZotope Ozone has the LUFS in here, or you can use other tools to analyze the loudness of your tracks if you plan on putting them on streaming platforms. FL Studio also backs this up. If you click File, Export, and then Master, you can set the loudness, and they then have the recommended loudness for each track. Now that you have a mastered 8-bar loop, drag the pattern in. I'm going to right-click and click S, which is split by channel. I'm going to drag all of this in here, and this is basically the 8-bar loop, and now it's time to arrange it. I like to duplicate this 2 times. I like to go and take all the drums out, because they usually have the beat coming in after 8 bars. I then like to take out a lot of the melody layers when the beat comes in, which gives the real kind of like raw sound. I'm going to grab a transition here from the Emotional Essence library. I'm actually going to reverse it because I want a lot of the tail to be at the end, and I'm going to lower the volume a bit, and it adds a lot of evolution to the track. And then later on we bring in a lot more of these layers to make it sound warmer. I'm going to make this hi-hat sequence unique and have this come in for the first 16 bars. And I'm going to simplify some of these hi-hats. Different genres and different producers and artists prefer different arrangement strategies. I like to have an 8-bar intro, a 16-bar verse, and then an 8-bar hook. And the main characteristics of these, the intro, I usually don't have the drums coming in. I just have a lot of the melody layers and then a tag if you want to put your beat tag in. For the actual verse, I take out lots of the melody layers, and it's really kind of raw and mainly focusing on the drums, and then the vocalist, if a vocalist is going to record on it, because you want to have a lot of room for them in the verse. And then when the hook comes in, it's a bit warmer. You bring in some of the melody layers, some of the perks, and some of the fill snares, and sometimes you can even make your hi-hat more complicated. And then from here, what I go and do is duplicate this a few times. And then I add a bit of an outro, which is mainly just the melodies here. And you can even go into the volume, click Create Automation Clip, and then go and add like a bit of a fade out at the end if that's how you want to finish the track. And just like that, that's how you can start and finish tracks without wasting time and without getting stuck. If you want to see a proper in-depth mixing and mastering tutorial, click one of the recommended videos. I also have so many videos on my channel showing how top producers make their tracks, showing the top DAW shortcuts and more. So make sure to check those out, and also check out the free sample packs I mentioned in the description, and the Emotional Essence library with 10,000 royalty-free samples and MIDI and 8 free bonuses, which I used when making this beat.